When you feel it down in this techie haze, lost in the speed of these digital days, world's evolving quicker than you can blink, caught in the code, no time to think. Keeping it real with sweet tea vibes, rolling through changes as life collides, adapting fast while the circuits hum, innovation speed, here we come. Production rises in the neon light, multiplying dreams with a single click. Progress moves on, no stopping it. Through the wires, through the streams, chasing productivity, chasing dreams. No time for pauses, no time to wait. In the rhythm of tech we create, keeping it real with sweet tea vibes, rolling through changes as life collides, adapting fast while the circuits hum, innovations beat, here we come. Here we come. Through the wires, through the streams, chasing productivity, chasing dreams. No time for pauses, no time to wait. In the rhythm of tech we create, keeping it real with sweet tea vibes, rolling through changes as life collides, adapting fast while the circuits hum, innovations beat, here we come. Here we come. Procrastination can't take the wheel. This digital world, we keep it real. With every pulse, with every beat, sweet tea's groove makes the future complete. Here we come.
Uploading.
Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining. I have a guest on with me today. I'm not trying to do. I'm not gonna get my talking straight here, but I come on live today. I have Michael here with me, joining me. Welcome into the show here, doing this podcast show live, whatever you want to call this. Welcome. And I know we talked a little before, but how you doing today, this morning?
I'm doing very well in this moment. I woke up. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be talking with you. I woke up this morning in a pretty rough way, and was able to transition out of that this morning and into a place where I could be excited and engaged to talk. I'm swirling amidst a world and a sea of complexity. This is an opportunity that we're here to talk about today, at least in part, that kind of came out of nowhere, and so did my fire. My fire's come back quite a bit in the past couple months. The past year has been a bit of a hibernation for me, and yeah, I'm really grateful to be here, to be speaking with somebody else, and to be putting this signal out to the world. And I'm excited to talk about what I love to do and what I'm doing, because it's the most interesting thing in the world to me right now.
And let's start there. What do you love to do the most? Or this is the talk about like just right now. What do you love to do?
I love to enjoy sensory experience, right? I love to be able to like engage and interact with life. That's just I wanted to put that out there, because the other thing that I love to do is very goal oriented. And it is focused on having an effect rather than just appreciating. And I love to support people to be more sovereign, to be more capable. I love equipping people with new skills and with new knowledge. I love sharing perspectives that open up a world that was, previously solid and tight and knotted up in just a single way. I love to give people space to feel the things that they haven't necessarily felt yet. And I love to enable people in whatever way. I guess in some sense, I like to enable people in whatever way is the most fruitful for them as determined by them, right? So if there's a salesperson who wants to get into art, like, I would love to show them how there's no such thing as an artist, like that identity, right? You're a salesperson, you're an artist. I would love to show them that entire philosophical line of thinking. I'd love to give them um not only the skills of illustration, but how to practice it and how to do it so that A, you see improvements, and B, it's manageable, the improvement and the practice and the effort. Like, you can enjoy learning a new skill and being, not an expert, and being a student again. If it's a salesperson, right, who does a great job when a customer comes to them, but they have a hard time gaining the attention of a customer, I want to enable them there. If it's an artist who doesn't know how to communicate or speak to an audience or connect with somebody in a way that, well, creates connection and the potential for business, but doesn't make it shallow and cheap, then I want to help them do that. And if somebody needs to say something to a family member that they've been holding on to for a long time and they don't know how to say it, and maybe there's a few emotions that they need to process before they can say it with clarity and honor what they have to say, what their truth is, then I want to help them with that. I'm a little weird about the word help. I used the word support earlier and help just slipped out, but I like helping people through a variety of different channels. I have a very wide skill set that I've developed over the course of my life. And I think more than anything, the value that I have to offer is like breaking learning down to a process, um, breaking learning down to a process like the art of learning something and then doing it to a functional effect is something that I think I'm better at than drawing or sales or any one of the specific skills that I've learned. And so yeah, I'm finding my thought train is coming to a stop here, and I think I've said plenty, even if I didn't bring it to a conclusory point. But I enjoy being useful, and I enjoy spending time identifying what is truly useful, what is maximally useful. And I try to temper that with the opinions and the personal journeys and stories of other people and sharpen my vision of what's useful. And hopefully we can all create, a sort of a singularity of value alignment that allows for the most individuation and potential for what is desirable. That sounded kind of cheesy, but I mean it.
Be right back. I think someone's knocking on my door. I'm gonna go see what's going on real quick. I'll be right back. I know we're live and everything,
You're gonna
but
leave me alone with the audience? That's dangerous.
I, I've seen it done before. But but I would like someone else. But
Do you
no,
think I can fill space?
if you do what, like, I'll give you a minute. I trust you and everything, but I'll be right back.
Okay, that works. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my show. We are here live in my bus. This is Aristocat up here. This is the face of my music project. I've got Acta Est Fabula, which is probably the most important piece that I've done to date. And boy, that took a lot. That I've got over here, it's unnamed, something about a phoenix, hooked on phoenix, like hooked on phonics. And yeah, this is my space. I live in a bus. I've got my bed here, my couch here. You're sitting on my sink and stove, and I've got the rest of the front of it that drives up there. This is where I live. This is my full-time home. 2 years in, this is probably still one of the best decisions that I've ever made. And Tommy's back.
It's so weird. Like they knocked on the door twice, and then I go there, and then they're gone. So I'm back and not knowing who that was. Oh, hold on, one more time.
All right. Looks like they came back. So what I wanted to do, but I got cut off, was I just wanted to share. Tommy and I took a self-development 3 or 4 day training course, super intensive, amazing program, amazing people, next level trainings. And we connected very briefly, but somehow we ended up, we shared a few conversations. We were in the same Zoom rooms and connected on Instagram, and we've just kind of stayed up, on Instagram very loosely and very fleetingly. And over the past couple months, Tommy's he's seen a few of my posts. He's reached out to me. He's provided me some support in the form of listening to me a few times. That's been amazingly helpful. And I just recently posted a GoFundMe, which was an extremely difficult thing for me to do. And Tommy reached out because he wanted to see how he could support me, and he offered to put me on his show so I could talk to you folks about not just this opportunity, but what the greater project of alchemy is. And, it's another one of these wonderful examples of how, I don't know, here we go. I'm going to be a little cheesy. The signal of love remains and persists through the loose and fleeting connections of ones and zeros, or something like that. But it's amazing how there's been any level of connection and we've stayed connected, and now we're talking right here, right now. And I was just giving him a little background on how we met and how we ended up here right now.
We go with the flow here, and we can get into that. I didn't know that I plan on definitely getting to all that as well, but I wanted to go into like background and everything and weird stuff where I just context, like the knocking windows I've been getting. Like we have some issues with windows here or something, and in my place, and it got to them that I needed window replacements, and they're here to replace my windows. Like, well, I'm telling them that doesn't need to be done and everything. And they're like, well, the windows are ordered. Like, we're here to put them in. It's like, well, I don't know, but like, I'm good now. I don't know what to tell you.
Sounds like a classic door-to-door strategy, which I have spent time in door-to-door sales. I've spent time in just about every kind of sale. And one of the biggest things that you need to do when you're knocking doors is immediately impose some sense of authority, or we're already a part of your life. Like there's like the windows are ordered, or when we were selling solar, it's like, I'm actually out here on behalf of the town. I need to check and see if you're eligible for solar, right? It's like, no, you don't. You're selling me something, but you're trying to make it sound as if, which I never really liked doing, and that never really worked for me. So I put down that strategy, but I can empathize with what I believe to be my fellow door-to-door salesman who just came to your door, and that's funny. We've got them. Are you sure? You said that you need. We've got them. They're in the truck. We were supposed to. Look. This is our schedule. We had it scheduled to install today. And then the person was like,
yeah. It all started like when I was actually having issues, but the maintenance crew came with this, and we're talking my windows right now. We can talk about anything on this stream: tech, life, business, door-to-door salesman. We'll talk about anything, but like the maintenance crew came out and they just came out to replace some springs, and my windows are good as new, no replacement needed. And the window company got communicated with the leasing office, and now the windows are ordered and I don't need them anymore. But I tried to send that
Oh,
email and
okay.
it's just been a little unorganized mess.
So they were legit. They are a part of your life. It wasn't a salesperson. I gotcha.
So maybe more of that come, maybe update later on live stream and everything we're connected, but I want to find out. And I like to actually I forget to do this a lot because I actually like doing this build, but yeah, it's my show. But ask me questions as well. Like sometimes people come like, "Can I ask you a question as well?" So I'm open to anything as well too, or just have that conversation
Cool.
and open up to everyone asking everyone questions. But you talked I had it and then it lost my I had it and then it left me, but it'll come back to me as well. You talked about creativeness, and I heard somewhere in there, and what we were saying when we opened up, that
Right.
everyone's creative, creating something, whether it's a process. I wrote down the word process, and
Yeah.
I truly 100% believe everyone on this earth has creative juices in them. They may not be willing to use them at the time, but everyone has creative juices, just about initiating, executing, or just jumping into those creative juices. And instead, like you're maybe at like a 9 to 5 job, where just more of a someone else's process, someone else's creative juices, not necessarily your own. And how can we jump to move? How can you help people and we help people? Like, how can we do that move to help them see how they can be creative? Like, before jumping into this question a little bit more, when you hear the word of creative, you think video, you think art, you think those types of things, but really anything you can be creative with.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
I absolutely love that this is where you took this immediately. Because I think that I talk a lot about creativity and then like how people are going to stop fighting, right? And we'll have a society without war. And I can see the connection and I can see the vision, but I don't think that everybody sees it exactly the same way that I do. Because when you hear the word creativity, when you hear the word expression, when you hear the word art, it's thought of as like painting or drawing or making something. Um, it's not thought of as a process, right? It's not thought of as a base function. And I think the first place that I can be useful to people is to suggest that you stop looking at creativity as some imaginary status and you start looking at it as like the logical definition of the word. Every single human being is a function or performs the function of creating and destroying. Like it is so baked into the exactly what we are. We are an operation of selection. And when you select anything, you destroy what is not selected and you create what would be created by selecting that thing. I chose to say these words right now. There's a million other words I could have chosen to say. Technically speaking, that reality, the possibility for that reality of where I was said other words has been destroyed. It's happening in every single second, every single moment that we make a decision. We're creating as we walk through the grass, we're creating and destroying. As we navigate our day-to-day life, every time that we speak to ourselves, the way that we manage our thoughts, the way that we interact with other human beings, the way that we do our dishes, the way that we cook our food, the way that we eat. So when I talk about art, it's so easy for it to come with art and creativity, for them to come with this baggage, this weight of this imaginary identity, this imaginary status of like artists, like maybe long hair, maybe like, liberal arts, maybe like some student loans, maybe some, I'm trying to be a little bit funny here, but there's this image of art that comes to mind that has nothing to do with business. And that's ridiculous to me. It's technically inaccurate. It's flawed because we've cordoned off and we've pigeonholed the definition for art instead of realizing that by viewing art as a potential broad way of life. So art is a process, right? Instead of a thing that somebody does or a feature that's turned on or off in a human, or like a painting on the wall or music, like delimit the word art. Look at it as a process. And what is that process composed of? And in some sense, I mean, the artistic process is composed of all of the little features and patterns that we engage with in living our lives, but it's hyper condensed into a little space where hopefully we can observe it and edit it and learn to interact with, you know, the process itself a little bit more fruitfully or a little bit more effectively. But like art is a it is a way of caring about what one does. It is a recognition of the fact that we are creators and destroyers in every moment. And it's a taking responsibility for the results and the means. It's a taking responsibility for one's own process. I think that is what it is to live artfully. It has nothing to do with whether you paint or draw. You know, if you take a high level of care and attention and detail to the way that you treat your kids, you are an artist, right? Maybe if we have to use identity here and create a category of that person's doing art, that person's not. The person who is consciously engaging with how they're doing something is an artist. And the person who's not consciously engaging with it is not an artist. They're, you know, they certainly perform a function, but it's not their function. And the level of engage, like they offload the responsibility to doing something better to simply how it's supposed to be done. And I don't mean to sound judgmental when I say that, but I do think that the most important thing for us to start doing as a culture is taking genuine care to the things that we say matter to us. And you know, whether you want to learn to draw or you want to learn to sell, or you want to learn how to, you know, give feedback to your kids or your parents or your loved ones, your brothers, sisters, or your partner, all of it requires a high level of care. And or at least I believe that it calls for a high level of care if we're ever going to stop doing all of the things that people say are senseless that we do nowadays, you know, like nasty shit to someone in a parking lot or war or, you know, businesses taking advantage of their consumer bases. Name your crisis, because everybody's got one that they feel is the reason why everything sucks and everything's a mess. I've got plenty of mine, no doubt. But pick the crisis. I do believe that the solution is being more honest with ourselves, is being more open, is being more humble, being more accountable, right? Because just being open and humble, people get the wrong idea. It's like, oh, well, I'm softening. Yes, there's softening that's required so that you can harden appropriately, so that you can take the appropriate form to take accountability for what's going on and then decide what action you're taking afterwards, you know? So a little bit in the weeds here. I've kind of expanded off of this question to talk about some things passionately that maybe are a little bit disjointed. So my apologies, but
Yeah, it's all great. And the one thing that came to mind when you start bringing up war, and we have the Aquatic News Network joining us here. Thank you for jumping in the chat here. Thanks for joining. If you feel free to pop in a question if you have. But one thing that came when you mentioned, I heard war, and there's a title book author that came to mind, The Art of War, and that's really when you're learning the process of something, and I've heard it from time to time, the phrase, it's everything. There's this, how'd it go? Everything is an art. When you're doing something, there's an art form. It's an art form. The way you do something, way you do, like you said, like the way you engage, the way we do everything is, there's an art form to that process.
yeah,
Whatever you think, and it's come up with that word war and everything. I heard that, the art of war, the art of engaging, the art of talking. Like you can decide to say these words right now. You could have said million other different words. The art of talking, the art of conversating, and where do I want to go here? Like, I heard a bunch of things here that I wrote down: caring,
Can I
mean,
can I just
engaging.
can I just say something from what
Yeah.
you said the art of war and you said the word engagement, and I feel like it's art when you're engaged, because you can do something, but it doesn't mean that
Oh,
you're engaged
totally
with it.
engaged,
Doesn't mean
engaged in war.
yeah. Yeah, and just because you're doing something doesn't mean that you're engaged with it. And being engaged, I think, is a matter of simply recognizing the truth, which is what you just said, which is everything has a process. And art is the process. It's the doing of it, it's the analysis of it, it's the care for it, it's the softening to it, it's the hardening to it. Like it's all of that. And the art of war, I feel like did you know there's another book called The War of Art?
I I think I heard both of them too, like said both ways. So what's the difference between the art of war, and the war of art?
Well, I don't
I
think
think I just answered my own question, but
I I don't know that I'm the first person that's I'm going to. The art of war, is the process of doing battle, so to speak. And the war of art is how to do battle inside of the art space, right? Whether your art space is your relationship with your family, or it's a studio, or it's a battlefield. They're kind of, as you're kind of, you started by pointing out, like they're interlinked. War and art are somewhat the same thing, right? But the art of war, or the war of art, excuse me, is a fantastic. It's one of the most potent. Like you can't get, your ego can't escape that little thing, that little resistance that's always trying to sabotage your ideas or keep you limited. That book does such a good job of like putting the spotlight on it, calling it out no matter where it is. It's like, do it, make the thing. The more that you don't want to make the thing, make it. And once it's made, put it out there. And if you don't want to put it out there, extra put it out there. It's like all about going into resistance, right? And so fighting the good fight inside of your artistic space, whether that's your effort to be a coach and start a foundation of education, whether you're an artist, whether you're a wrestler, whether you're in battle. Like, it's all about going into resistance and recognizing resistance as the place to go for any fruit to be found. And that's the war of art. I love it. I've never read the whole thing. I've read like probably 20 pages of it, and it sticks with me, still stuck with me. That guy is masterful at calling out the sneaky little subtle resistance that turns into all sorts of stories that this is definitely true, and that's definitely true. Remember, imaginary status, right? Not the actuality of things, but this idea. Well, I'm not really that good at drawing, or I don't know if I could sell these people, or what if I look this way? You know what? It would be better. You know what? I've been hard on myself lately. I think I need, instead of trying to put myself out there more, maybe I need to, shrink back. And don't get me wrong, there's times where that's appropriate to shrink back and hibernate. I've been doing it for the past year, not really by choice almost, but we come up with all of these little logical stories that sound very polished and very reasonable as to why you know what? Not today. Maybe I just need to, we let the resistance win and we think that we're being an intellectual about it. I do anyway. But the War of Art calls that out. Someone just said something in the chat about Hagakure.
yeah, do you notice Hagakure
I don't know. I'm not familiar.
pairs well with the art of war? If you could expand more on that, I'd love to hear what any other thoughts you have on that. Aquatic News Network. Thank you for the chat. But War of Art, I think of this. I don't know if what you heard. Maybe what's the difference between a couple things that came up with the War of Art? There's competition, and then there's collaboration. You see, we need to be more of the other, or like you see, is there benefits of competition versus collaboration?
Competition's a dangerous game, but it's necessary. It's useful. I mean, it's a natural law. Like, it's part of evolution's scientific process to produce viable life is competition, right? And while there can be toxic iterations of it, I think it's goofy. I have more respect for the perspective than calling it goofy, but for the sake of speaking fluidly, I think it's goofy to, to call a competition toxic. Just like I think it's, goofy to play zero-sum games where the point is one person, winner takes all, and everybody else loses. I hate those kinds of dynamics when they're enacted and iterated in the world. I hate those dynamics, not the people, but zero-sum games, which the foundation of is, well, I know it's bad to kill all the whales, but if I don't kill the whales, somebody else is going to kill the whales. And then they're going to use the resources that they get from selling the dead whales to take advantage of me. Right? And it's this defensive posture towards the world all of the time that drives people to be greedy. And I think that competition in the spirit of zero-sum games is not healthy. I think competition in the spirit of seeking to separate the wheat from the chaff, sharpen oneself, and improve to the greatest extent possible, I think that competition is beautiful and necessary. And even inside of the art space, I think that simultaneously we need less ego and more ego. And less judgment of what's really art and what's not art, or what's original, what's not original, instead of calling art good or bad, if you're going to compare yourself, make a technical critique. Well, I feel that they used a specific technical critique. I feel that they used more symbolism. They included more symbolism in this drawing and told a more complete and cohesive story. And so that's somewhere where I don't feel I'm good enough. And I guess a person might go two different routes. One person might say, well, I'm going to try to emulate that person. And the other person might say, well, I'm going to try to be better than them. And I think neither route is wrong so long as you're doing it in the spirit of communal improvement. Like you're improving yourself selfishly, but you know that that's something that benefits everybody. It's not like, I want to be better than that artist and squash them out of the space. It's like, no, thank you. You made me feel less than. I recognize that, my value is not measured by my ability in art, but thank you for that little trigger because now I'm fired up and I want to be able to do detail as well as you do. I don't see any reason why competition can't be alive in art. It's all about the energy behind it, and collaboration is another thing that's hindered by ego in art because people where there needs to be less ego is in the control of what our art is. Where there needs to be more ego, hey, I can do that too. Now I'm going to practice. Yeah. Where there needs to be, here's where the two come together. You can see somebody who's better at doing cross-hatching and you might want to compete with them to get better at them. But in some sense, you're collaborating with them because by emulating their style and using their and not being so full of yourself to, well, I'm going to just try and do this from the brain. No, literally make 1-to-1 copies of your favorite artist, their drawings. Do it for a day if you don't want to do that for weeks. Okay. You are collaborating with them. You are improving your drawing skills and you are changing the way that your brain functions. You are wrapping your mind around a visual instantiation of their brain processes and learning a certain posture or a certain dance that somebody else has. And you're collaborating with them as much as you might be trying to even surpass them in terms of technical ability. But then collaboration in terms of let's get together and make something kind of a sense. I've seen creative projects fall apart because people try to control creative products too much and they don't really enjoy collaborating with others. They're almost doing it as a function of their imaginary status in their mind where they like the idea of collaborating and they think they should and it would probably make them look good. But when it comes time to actually collaborate, they're competing not against the other person, but against their own self-image in their mind that's imposing the standard that you should meet. I think that's what drives people to be hipsters about artwork, about music. It's well, that's not original, that looks like a Salvador Dali painting. It's so and what is the word original? What does that mean? Can you supply me a definition for it that I can't pick apart? And to be fair, you can pick apart any definition if you want to be a dick with your words, but I mean genuinely pick apart because there's no such
thing. Technical.
There's no such thing as originality. I truly believe this, right? And that doesn't need to remove our unique stamp on things. Like, yes, we are a unique, individuated consciousness that matters. You matter by the fact that you exist. Stop looking for the fact that you matter inside of whether you can come up with an idea that seems new or not, because it might seem new. And there might not be a human on the planet that can figure out where you were inspired, but it's not new. Like there is no bedrock of originality. Like we are processes of selection, creation, destruction, consumption, and output. Like we're a synthesizer. The energy comes in and then the energy comes out, but we didn't make the energy. I mean, this human body didn't necessarily make the energy. And even if it did make some energy, it's because it took other energy and made it into new energy. But it's all remixing. We're all just DJs. None of us are producers. Like, and that's doesn't need to be a bad thing. It doesn't need to remove any of the gravitas or the significance of a creative project just because we're not really original, you know? And this is a passion for me, the whole originality thing. So I kind of wanted to expand on it a bit. But I do think that if we can internalize that, which I'm working on internalizing, like it's all internalized up here. In actuality, it's not completely embodied. But I think if we could internalize that and stop running on the hamster wheel of trying to feel like we are significant in some way by being original, art would be so much cooler. People would be so much cooler. Life would be so much more enjoyable to live, you know? And then if we could take that outside of the art space, right? Drawing and music and whatever else that we classify as art, and we take that to the greater art, the grander art, which is family, which is tribe, community, societal systems. If we can take that same, if we can stop looking for validation of our self-worth, intelligence, means, capability inside of all of our pursuits, then our pursuits would actually work out and less people would have their toes chopped off in the process, you know? So the originality thing, we could be here all day on that. I could talk about that and I won't.
It's what you mentioned. Sounds like the whole religious thing. I don't know how religious you are, or anything, but like the idea of we're actually not the producer, we're the DJ. I like that, saying that there's, when you talk about a creator or something, or there's one producer that created this whole world, and I like where you're going there. Like this has been around for probably millions of years. I don't know how long exactly. This, at some point, this was probably done before. You're not the first one, and I can actually see a lot of that.
Now, we can take credit for our unique means, our process, the pattern by which we DJ. Like how do you mix? Like what makes you unique is you're going to mix Michael Muscatello and Tommy Kenyon on a chat right now. You know, like that's your choice. That's your selection. That's your organizing of the energy that's available into this art project right now, you know? And there is like, I don't know. I haven't figured this out for myself yet. To what extent is it worth taking credit, you know? And why would you take credit? Well, to feel good about yourself, you know, feel good, to feel confident, to do more art, to whatever the functional value of credit is. But assuming that it's got a use and it's not all bad to feel good and take credit for something, what we could take credit for is our process of selection, you know, and what beats we choose to go with what, you know. Like I can listen to Terrence McKenna and then I can listen to Jordan Peterson. And these two are very different characters, most people would think. To me, the core of their message, their most valuable message, is very, very similar. As with most of the teachers that I respect, you know, they have their own flavor of it. They have their own, that's it. They've got their own mixing process. They've got their own, like one produces a metal track, the other one produces a rap track, the other one produces ambient. But like the core message that I've received anyway from those two characters has been the same. And then to take it to my personal process, I can't tell you how many times I was doing this last night, where I was hearing like Terrence's voice in my head and sort of my words inspired by his thoughts. Like it's what Terrence would say about the topic at hand, but it's Terrence. And I thought to myself, and what I was actually coaching myself on, or rather advising myself, was stop. You know what? I've got Instagram Live on just for the sake of sharing this with some folks. I'm sorry to whoever's watching. There is a link, and oh geez, I don't know how to give the people that are watching right now access, but I really want to read this to you. So I'm going to go open up my phone notes. And I think it's I just think it's a really great example of what I'm talking about. If you'll allow me a second to go a little bit long winded. So I
And I
wrote,
can go back and look the comments while you're doing that.
okay.
We need to come up with something completely new, like these weird modern artists dumping buckets of sand. There's a balance, and people have lost it.
I won't, well, maybe we'll go there in a second. That's a big topic. If you can't tell any topic, I end up having a lot of
Influential art go a lot of different ways there.
I like that. Influential art. Right. Over trying to simply be original. Because if everybody's trying to be original and you're trying to be original, guess what? You're not. And the point is not originality anyway. It's to have an effect. It's to make a difference. Not necessarily in like, I want to make a difference. No, a literal difference. Did you make someone feel something? Was it disgust? You know, was it joy? And even that performance art, like in some sense, I don't like it. But in the other sense, it's like, I'm grateful because they are producing reactions. Like this commenter just said, I don't like that. That's a reaction. And so while I agree with them that we need better art, also, let's take that as an opportunity to, well, it did create a reaction. It did make a difference in some sense. So it's complicated, you know, what we call art and what we don't call art. And that kind of ties into the beginning of the conversation. I feel like there's art in the process of identifying art that can be valuable on a personal level, you know, like me sitting here thinking about dumping buckets of sand or taping a banana to the wall. Yes, if the purpose is to ascertain whether that's like the same as, you know, Beau Bramwell, it's obvious it's not the same as Beau Bramwell by a million different, you know, measures. But I can still take that as a conversation piece and start looking within myself, like, where am I taping bananas to the wall and calling it art, you know? And so in that sense, it is still art. But I do like intentional art. I do like art where I don't have to do all of the work to gain the value from it, where like the person can meet me in the middle, right? You know, where it's like somebody in my life can treat me like absolute garbage and I can learn a lot from that. I would love it if we could learn together. Like if the goal wasn't like zero-sum competition and I have to learn how to be everything is a mirror and okay, like, yes, I can extract my own value from a shitty interaction, but I would love it if we were meeting each other in the middle, seeing that we had a problem and then going shoulder to shoulder, looking at that problem, seeing what we can both learn. That's my ideal, you know, and artwork that's a little bit more intentional, I tend to feel like is more like that, you know, where the other one's just like, hey, I'm going to smack you growing up. And then you got to figure out what you're going to learn from that. You know, like whoosh, banana to the wall.
Yes. Where do you want to go? Intentional. And what's the intention? What do you, where do you want to go as the starting, and what do you want for whoever it is, a receiver of whatever's on the other end? What do you want from them?
And when you say that, like,
for them,
when you say that, who's to say that that artist didn't have like a really deep thought about that banana tape to the wall? Who's to say that they weren't just goofing on the whole art community, you know, and that's their performance art. Their art, their performance art is, you're going to pay me $6 million from this. You're going to have to tape a new banana up to the wall yourself when it decays. But I'm going to do that. That says something. I don't know if that's the artist's intention, but nobody does. Nobody asked that guy. I haven't seen an article where he's talked about what he meant to do or what he meant to say. And so I think when we go and say that's not art, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here. I think what the real problem that people are pointing at is there's lots of people who are hungry doing amazing things who don't get paid well enough for it. And this guy just got $6 million for wasting something that costs way more than it should at the grocery store to begin with, right? Like there's something that just feels wrong about the system. It's not so much the artists themselves or the fact that someone taped a banana to the wall. I don't care. Like, tape bananas to your wall. Take pictures of it. Have a crowd of people that likes it. That's fine. My disdain for that is generally going to come from my need to eat and my lack of ability to provide that to myself, or my concern for the general flow of society where lots of people are doing amazing things who aren't eating, who need to spend their time trying to eat, and then can't spend their time doing amazing things, you know? So I don't think our problem with art really even has to do with like, I don't think it's accurate to say that the banana taper didn't have intention and that makes it not art. You know, like he might have had a ton of intention. I don't care. I just want people to like have reasonable means to acquire food and to acquire self-knowledge so they can interact with their family members in the greater society in a way that people actually want to and that works for others too. Like I just feel like I wouldn't give a shit about even $6 million going somewhere for a banana taped to a piece of wall because like I don't know. I guess the other thing could be like my ego that's involved. Like, well, what about me? And they're getting paid $6 million, but I'm doing this and I'm not getting recognized. That must say something about me. And we're right back to the whole I want to be original. I want to be this. I want to prove to myself that I matter in some way by this external thing. And that is not the game to be playing if we want to have results that are desirable, in my opinion. And actually, did you have something to say or can I segue this?
There was a thought that entered my mind when like the last part, but like into what you like the segue into that. But I do want to mention like as far as recognition and everything, it's funny that the thought that come about death and the like when we talk to literally like the artists, how after death their art becomes more famous. There's more recognition after death.
Yeah, and the same thing happens in families when someone dies. Is everybody finally appreciates them and then starts to take on the responsibility of
Appreciation after death, which is weird in a way.
yeah. It is weird. It's there's two people in me. One that tries to be unbiased and objective and not bothered and speak about things without taking a position. And then there's a part of me that wants to take a position, you know, and the part of me that wants to take a position wants to say it's fucking sad that it takes us till somebody dies before we appreciate their value and then start enacting it in our life. You know, it's sad that we take for granted that somebody else is going to be the big person until they're gone. And now we have to be the big person. But why can't we start to try to do that while they're here? And then we can both be big people. And then imagine how great the relationship would be. You know, like it pains me that people have to
Emotional
die.
attachment.
I think it's because of the availability of the art, the emotional attachment to the particulars of the artist's death. I think when somebody leaves this earth, they're no longer on the hook. Like we don't have to judge them anymore. You know, they get a pass. It's like, oh, poor them. They're gone. You know, like there's a softening that we do to people. And I feel like included in that softening is like a seeking to understand the value of their life. It's like, oh, the story's over. Now we can treat them with empathy. And maybe that's not exactly it for artists. I'm thinking very much of like the familial dynamic here. But as far as availability goes, I think that definitely has something to do with it. You know, we love scarcity. Again, the whole originality chase is tightly linked to like, you know, the scarcity. But I also think that when somebody dies, it allows us to safely assess them without the need to be defensive towards them. And I think that that's part of why artists get venerated and, you know, and I don't know, maybe we're obsessed with legacy too. And there's a part of us that unconsciously wants to honor people after they die because we hope the same thing happens for us. Legacy is, I've noticed that's a big one. Like people talk about purpose and stuff, you know, they can talk about all of the shallowness of this purpose, that purpose, that purpose, that purpose, that purpose, that purpose. And then they get down to legacy as like this bedrock of this is what's truly purposeful. And I'm not saying it's not, but I just noticed that legacy is sort of like the last bastion of staying attached to purpose for people who have already cleared out a lot of the more shallow purposes. And that's interesting to me. And I think it might be relevant to why we buy more dead people's art.
I'm interested to see what your segue was, but like, and that just another thought of and to go there as well. Maybe just ties into that purpose, legacy, or mission.
Yeah,
Are they the same? Or are they different? In having
legacy.
when you talk purpose, or just you're on a mission on this limited time, whatever.
Well, purpose is limiting in the way that we use the word, because as soon as you say purpose, my brain starts going, I maybe let me personalize this. I am maybe limiting in the way that I use the word purpose because my mind immediately goes to a single thought, right? A single purpose. That's how I find that people tend to think about and talk about purpose. Mission is like, again, it's singular, but mission is smaller than purpose. It's almost like the small purpose inside of larger purpose. And legacy is like, I don't know, man. I would much rather know that my legacy is, the only reason I want notoriety and recognition is so that I can have a greater effect, so that my signal can be amplified, because I've spent a long time crafting this signal. And I think that this signal would be really helpful, if not at least fun and entertaining for society to consume and gnaw on for a while. But the only reason that I want recognition is so that I can have a wider audience. Like, I don't need to know if people are talking about me after I died. I want my legacy to be the actuality of the effect that I had, not my name in a history book. And I can appreciate why it's different for some people. And maybe there's parts of me that, like, I'm always trying to do the whole Jung thing, like nobody can be completely honest with themselves. But really, I don't want notoriety. Like, I want to live my life how I want. I don't want anyone scrutinizing it. I don't want anyone coming in and, I don't want an audience hanging hopes on me. But I also do want an audience, that wants to contend with the information that I put forward. I really don't think that I want, a legacy after I die, or even a legacy while I'm here, unless it enables me to enable people. That's to me what, I really do think legacy is an ego game. Like, I want to last. I want to persist. Why? Like, have your experience while you're here and you're you for you. Do with it what you can for the sake of others, and let your persistence be the effect that you had instead of the credit for it. And this, honestly, this leads me right into the segue, because this imaginary status is the new word, the phrase that I've coined that really felt like an unblocker for me. It loosened things up using this phrase because, self-worth, quality as a parent, good as an artist, like providing net positive to the world. Like, there's all these different measures and races that we run, that we try to meet to be good enough. And I think the broad category for it is this word imaginary status, right? And the same thing with, like, I'm an artist. I'm not an artist. You're both wrong. You're both wrong. I'm not one. I'm not one. I make art. I do things artistically, right? We already kind of unbounded and opened up the definition of what art is, but imaginary status. So this is what I wrote to myself. And I'm generally very, very soft with myself. I'm not usually so knock around, but this is all like all caps, because I was like, dude, stop. Get the art. Stop. You're resisting the arguments. Get them out of the way, right? So I wrote in all caps. I wrote, forget whatever stupid fucking idea you have in your head of good or bad or right or wrong or respect or disrespect. And just realize that you have an immense amount of power that affects the people around you, whether you think you can control it or not. Stop playing the game of imaginary status. Imaginary status. You look for it everywhere, in who treats you how, in who you're friends with, in the kind of interactions you have, in the kind of job you have, in the success measurements that you can point out. Stop looking for it everywhere. Because maybe for a while it was useful for navigating the game of socialization. Maybe. But now, fuck off! It doesn't come down to your success in any domain. You don't even know what success is, nor what will lead to it. I don't know what success is. And I wrote that in small words, right? Mm-hmm. Say it with me. I don't know what success is.
I don't know what success is.
Thank you. Right? You can identify idealistic environments and systemic setups that would be awesome. You can identify a life situation for you that would be awesome, right? A job situation, a achievement that would be, you can identify these things, but that's not success. You don't know what success is. So stop, full stop, zero send, I wrote. Do not, I repeat, do not imaginarily identify with some status based on any kind of data. The data is the data. The status that you extrapolate is what's fake, right? Now, it's obvious that we can extrapolate models from data and use it to more successfully navigate the world. There's no doubt about that. But I have, and the people around me that I see at all varying levels of personal discovery and awareness, we all do this thing where we try to extrapolate, and it might not even be loud enough that we hear the labels that we give ourselves, but we have this emotional roller coaster that we ride that is directly controlled by what we're extrapolating from the data in front of us. So the advice here is do not imaginarily identify with some status based on any kind of data. And then this is where the real segue came in, and I'm going to tie this back into DJing versus producing and originality. And then I would like to maybe focus in on, because I've been having lots of fun. I always have fun when I, jack my jaw. So thank you for the space and the opportunity and the prompts and this lovely commenter who's given us things to go off of and talk about. But I would like to, after this, open it back up to you and then maybe go deeper into one thing, which is why we're here today, right? Why we're talking, because I'd love to do this with you weekly if I could. So I wrote, do not, do not do it. Okay. Cheese. Thanks. And then I wrote Terrence voice with a little asterisk. Real morality is to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, and shelter the homeless. That is to say, you fill an immediate need when it is present and obvious that it's worth filling. Define needs and those you respect, and it can become much simpler to navigate this life without imaginary status. Right? And as soon as I wrote that, the next thought that came to mind was, wait, was this me, or was like Terrence? Is this really my thoughts, or is this coming from him? Am I channeling something? Can I take credit for this? Immediately, in the midst of telling myself, like, don't ride the credit roller coaster, brother. I was like, that's a great thought. And I wrote it in an artsy voice. It sounded like what he would have said. Can I take credit for this? The first thought. And I just couldn't help but laugh. Like, I couldn't help but laugh because that reaction is so unconscious. It's so immediate. I'm telling myself, facts, giving up yourself for the benefit of all. It comes back around. We just have to overpower the negativity with positive outlooks and solutions. Giving up yourself for the benefit of all. Yeah, and I think the yourself that needs to be given up is not necessarily like your well-being and your nutritional, solidity or your sleep schedule or any of that, but giving up yourself, which is an idea. Yourself is an idea. This is actually me. This is actually Michael, but yourself is an idea. And when you give up that idea of yourself, then you can go about being effective truly and go about doing things and helping people without always having that motivation that causes you to do the wrong thing for the right reasons. And that line is taken directly from Alan Watts, right? Who says, stay in touch with your eternal nature. If you have to have an identity, which we might have to, like, it might be impossible to not have that role filled inside of the human. And maybe that's not the case, but like, if you got to have an identity, identify with your eternal nature, identify with being God in drag, like, because then all the pressure comes off. It's not about excusing complacency. It's not about looking for reasons to not give a shit and make everything relative. Take the pressure off, man. Like, take the pressure off. Like, you're God. You're eternal. You're going to be here forever. You're perfect. Nothing can hurt you. Nothing ever has. You've never done anything wrong, right? And that, I think, is, if we can identify with that, people are afraid. They're like, oh my God, like, someone with all of the shackles taken off, like, they'd be dangerous. And in some sense they would be, but I don't think the danger would be bringing real harm against others. I think the danger would maybe be speaking the truth to others and disrupting the instantiated idea of myself and yourself and what the world is, and good, bad, and morally reprehensible or morally desirable. Like, all that would fall apart, I think. But identify with the eternal nature, that's what I think giving yourself up is. It doesn't mean like don't make living a life of service mean squashing out the individual that you are. Make living a life of service be giving up the idea of the individual who you are or should be, and actually being engaged, not with an idea, but with the actuality of what's going on, you know? And it doesn't mean like, don't ever try to label a situation like, oh, that's a bear, it's attacking a human, that's the aggressor right now. And that's the right. Like you can use your brain and model reality to your benefit, but just be careful. Be really careful, especially when it comes to yourself, and give that thing up as often as you can, you know?
Give up to I would definitely we've been going well. First part of it was the window guys coming in and get like interruption, and we can go into all that first part, and then we had a great conversation first hour, and had thank you for Aquatic News Network for chiming all your thoughts and chats. Keep them coming too. This was fun, and I want to get into background and your what do we call this? Your purpose, like we say, like purpose, mission. Like get into this whole thing. Forgetting what exactly right now off the top of my head, but like what you're seeking out doing, what you're asking for. I saw you put out an ask and everything. We'll get into all that too.
Yeah. So my background. I was a high school wrestler, moderately interested in psychology. Didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew that I wanted to be a great wrestler. So I actually, the day that I had to commit to college, I wrote the director of admissions an email explaining why I hadn't applied, who I was, my SAT scores, why I wanted to go, and I was accepted into college. So I got to go, started my wrestling journey. That fell apart, and I found myself in a very reflective and introspective phase in my life. I started interacting with some different, plants out there that had some things to say to me that were really turned everything on its head. And I had some beautiful experiences and some difficult experiences that have really been foundational in shaping my seeking, my interest, what I care about, what I'm sensitive to, the questions that I ask, the depths that I go to try to find truth is very majorly been shaped by one single experience that I had during that time. And since then, I came home, I started managing some retail stores, some vape and smoke shops, which is a monkey I still haven't, kicked off my back entirely. And then I wound up, after a few years of, running those shops, I got a job with a corporation selling home heating oil. And within a year and a half, despite being very young at the organization, I was able to weasel my way into the sales training specialist spot, who was responsible of training the entire sales team of like 40 people, plus all the new hires that came in the door. And so I was not only like classroom teacher for 8 hours a day, 8 weeks at a time, but I was also developing education materials and the actual learning process. Like the 200-page workbook was like 75 pages before I touched it. And it was, organized. We'll call it organized one way. I, streamlined it and made it super efficient. So I got a lot of valuable experience in terms of putting information to a system where it could not only be learned, but also enacted by the individual. And then after 2 years of doing that, I realized that like my sales training classes were self-development in disguise. It was a Trojan horse of let's face our fears and treat customers better and ourselves better. And we'll make way more sales in the process. That's a given, but let's do that, And I just, it was 2020. The world was going crazy. I very much felt like the pressure of existential angst and gloom and doom, and we're about to hit the dystopian wall. And so I decided, well, it's time to make the jump. And I pulled out my 401k and had a couple grand and decided I was going to start a self-development training business. Ran into a coaching training from IPEC. Little did I know, one of my good friends was the president of that organization. And I had no idea, signed up for it, told him about it, like, hey, dude, you would love this. And then found out he was actually spearheading it. That was 30 hours that changed my life more than most 30 hours ever have or ever will. That's when I fell in love with coaching as a dialogue technology. As a literal like rule set for speaking that creates magic. And I had been in therapy. I had studied psychotherapy for years, like 18 and on, while I was working at those vape shops, obsessively consuming, psychoanalytic material, whether it was online college lectures, or even doing my own research, just listening to people in other domains, but trying to filter it into a model of what it is to be human that I was trying to understand, and I'm still trying to understand. And so I took this training course. In 5 minutes of coaching, like, I was like, oh my God, I made more progress than 50 hours of therapy. And I think there's a few reasons, but coaching the energy behind it builds in the implication of sovereignty for the individual that you're working with. It makes them empowered just by the way that you're speaking to them. You wouldn't be speaking to them unless you believed in them, unless it was literal that they could be the solver of their problems and also find the solutions within themselves. Super, super powerful. Coaching's amazing. I hate that it's become this like memeified, job. And a lot of people do use it as like a cover for being an advisor or a consultant, or even, selling people's nothing in some cases. And it makes me sad, because coaching is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. And it's magic. It's literal word magic, and if it's applied appropriately. And so I took the training, I fell in love with coaching, and then I was like, oh, well, I want to be a coach. Like, I got to help people on the individual level. That's where all of the societal change happens, is at the individual level. It can't happen from anywhere else. So like trainings, yeah, but maybe I'll fill my room full of trainees by filling, one seat with coachees for a while. And then life happened, and lots of things. And I ended up stopping that project for a while to take a job with a sales training company named Global Performance Group. And they are one of the top 3 training companies in the world, just in terms of from what I've ascertained about other companies' training methodologies and values. Global Performance Group, you got a big business and you got some coin to spend, you want the best training in the game, I can't recommend them enough. Harry Kendallbacher is he's like a James Bond salesman out of a movie, but he's got a huge heart, and Ron is he's the brains behind the whole thing. He's the scientist. And I learned how 5 people plus a few contractors could service a company with 230,000 employees, and do it effectively and do a great job, like a very hands-on job. And obviously we weren't hand training every single individual person, don't get me wrong, but this is where I really cemented and almost validated or professionalized my sales training skills, my sales training model, and got lots of experience in the B2B space, which is very different than selling B2C in many ways. It's also the same. I spent about 2 years with them, had a lot of fun, learned a lot, and then it was time again to make a move, and decided that we were going to move into a bus, travel the country, pick up some regenerative farming skills, and start a homestead. To keep that story very short, that project is still on. I'm the only one that's involved in that project. So my wife and I ended up separating not long after I created a sales training for a friend's company. He asked me to. I had never had my own sales training business, just illustration, which I forgot to include that very important piece in the whole background. But the sales training, I put my method to paper. I synthesized all of the various inspirations and learning domains and people that I've been with before. I synthesized them into, again, I DJ'd like they did with their sales training program, and like everybody does with any program ever. It's all DJ'd. It's all a mix, everybody's sampling. Don't worry about it, even guitar. Look, Mozart was not mining copper or whatever fucking metal was needed for the string on a cello. He wasn't doing it. So just give yourself a break. Give me a break. And I synthesized my own sales training model, and I fell in love with it. I was in a place where I was being pretty hard on myself. And when I made that, I was taken aback at how awesome I thought it was. And holistic, whole, WHOL, like holistic. It's not like, yeah. And I decided to start selling it to people. So I sold it to a couple companies. I started training people, and the results that I was hoping for, and the deep personal connections and the business success, it all started happening. And then, that's when everything blew up in my world. It wasn't just me getting divorced, but people in my family, like multiple of them. And life has been really, really crazy since then. So I've taken about a year off done a couple art pieces. I took actually this guy right here, Bowen Bramwell, who's a huge part of my art journey and a huge part of my inspiration, as you'll see. I sat down with him. I helped him synthesize his artistic process to a training, which he'd never even talked about or broken down before. And then we delivered it over the course of 7 weeks to a team of people and had an amazing time and got deep with people. Like, yeah, they picked up drawing skills, but they also got emotional support. And not every single person was there for that or needed that, but there was some real depth that was had. And I love it. It's what I'm here for. It's all a Trojan horse of feeling better,
All right.
you know?
I'm engaging in both YouTube, and I'm getting another I had on the live in the last week and everything, and he's like chat blowing up on Instagram from him. I'll just go back and got some good questions on YouTube. Like that's when I started. Have a question: can he unbutton any more buttons on his shirt? From Ziggy Blader 986 on Instagram. I love it. Long story on the bus. Van life, hashtag van life. Thomas jumping on it. He's just saying he's talking too much.
Our viewers want me to unbutton more buttons.
I would. Oh no. I don't know what exactly is meant, but I would love to chat. It would seem like an interesting conversation because just from my conversation with him, it would be a good just for you two to like conversate and discuss things as well.
Is this the button guy that you're going to bring on live?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I don't know what. Maybe we can get into that. Why he said that?
I mean, I think I know it. It's fun. Part of it is this is kind of who I am. Like I like to be naked. If I had it my way, like we'd be rolling around in the grass. But I can wear a collared shirt. It just might not be buttoned as much as you want, unless like there's a law about it. This is me, believe me, I judged myself for this before I ever hopped on.
Just to get that status thing.
Anyway, we don't have to harp on that. I'd love to talk to the guy.
Yeah, but he can jump in now. We could plan another time too. I know we're planning with him to go back with me and him do the live, but we can work out. You said you'd love to do this weekly too, so maybe next week we can plan for that. I want for this right now. The main purpose I wanted to get into was what's coming up in June.
Yeah, so the whole reason that I'm here and talking to you today is because there's an opportunity that I have in June that I cannot financially make happen on my own. And there's a lot of this is it's fun because this is like I'm almost exploring the morality of asking for help in the midst of having to do it myself right now. But I'll just say it's very uncomfortable for me too. It's very uncomfortable for me to admit that the past year of my life has been spent in hibernation, even though depending on who you ask, I might have good reasons for it. But I have an opportunity to be a part of an art auction and a gallery showing with artists who are far beyond my scope in terms of notoriety. People like Alex Gray, Chris Dyer, Android Jones, one of my best friends in the world, Bowen Bramwell, is going to be headlining the event. And it's actually a MAPS convention as well. Which is one of the biggest psychedelic plant medicine research foundations that are out there. They're doing some of the most work for legalization and having really good, useful data. It's a little bit more buttoned up than the hippies of the 60s, So it's an amazing event with amazing people that I'd love to be around. And number one, it's an opportunity for me to sell my art and really inject my business with some capital so I can start running it again. That fire has come back for me, and then this opportunity arose. But what's bigger than that is that the head of the magazine, who I will be showing up with, who will be auctioning the art, who has connections all throughout the art industry and the plant medicine space, he wants to partner with me to provide sales training to artists who know that they need to connect with their audience and at a deeper level and sell more often, but they want to be able to do it in a way that feels ethically resonant and aligned for them. And I know I struggle myself, despite being, I'm an artist and a salesperson. Like, it's hard to find that middle ground where I'm just being genuine instead of trying to not sell them or trying to sell them. And I want to go out there and help all these artists who I know tend to be, you know, a little bit more pensive and philosophical and what's that word, introverted, than you know, the salesperson who's out there selling something that he doesn't really want to sell but making lots of money doing it. And the deeper pull for me on this is that the best thing for a person is to establish or iron out or improve the area or skill set of their life that is not as functional as some of the other skill sets. And I believe that this will have an effect on artists, not just in their professional context, but also in their personal context, because to sell is to speak with intention, and it is to pursue something, right? It is to speak, it is to intentionally go after a specific thing. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently. There are lots of ways that people go about it that I think are more destructive than creative, technically. Like the value is less than what's provided. The destruction is greater than the creation in how they go about it. I do believe that the sales training for artists would not just be useful for them in a professional context, but it helped them talk to their family. It helped them navigate on the street, their relationships, all the above. So that's part of my personal pull. I pitched it to him that I would do, you know, an hour or two seminar and offer some free coaching for anybody who shows up at the event. And he got back to me and he was just like, look, man, it's going to be really jam-packed. I don't think we have enough time, but I love what you're doing. It's my vision too, to enable and equip these artists. I want Shroomski Magazine to be a hub and synonymous with support and resources for the art community. I want to throw a separate event with you in July, and I want to do this. Let's do this. Let's create a product. Let's create a behavior change process that involves material, trainings, individual coaching. Let's deliver it to all these artists who need it. We'll use my company's name and we'll throw an event in July to kickstart this off. We'll trim the waters at the event in June. So the greater opportunity and the thing that's really driven me to ask for help, like ask for people to donate money so that I can actually get my ass out there, is that the potential effect is much greater than like me selling a piece who someone might connect with emotionally, which is no small thing. But it is it's a huge opportunity to do exactly what I want to do with my company, which is eventually to be an education resource hub for all life skills that are, you know, underserved and underpointed to, like communication skills, the soft skills, right? I think that they're the hard skills. And there's so many different pitfalls and traps and tricks and situations and iterations where a different communication strategy would be appropriate versus another. And I want to provide super specific trainings to people that helps them navigate their life. I want to take quiet geniuses that are out there, like you with your technical expertise. I want to sit down with you for 2 hours. I want to synthesize and extract your process and all your wisdom. And I want to create a course that either you would run or somebody else would run. And you'd get some recognition and your value would be spread amongst the world. They'd be enabled by knowing how to do what you do. And you know, the company would grow and be able to provide more and more trainings on, like, dude, how to tie a knot. I don't care. You know, I do care. I'm being a little bit flippant, but the other piece to this and the reason why I'm asking is because, you know, from now, like the opportunity popped up 2 weeks ago. From now until the day that I have to leave, I'm already working, you know, all the hours that I can. Dog sitting, taking on odd jobs. You know, I'm doing basically whatever I can to make a couple extra bucks and make this possible. And I'm going to be short by $3 or $4 grand, even if I made every available dollar to me right now. Unless, of course, I have an opportunity to sell my business, which is something that I haven't really been doing for the past year. So there's no pipeline, right? There's no pipeline currently to try to drum up business through. So I'm scrambling to make this possible. It's an opportunity that I think will give back multifold to lots of people. And not just in the immediate, but in the long term when alchemy becomes what I've envisioned it could be. And yeah, I've got some bus repairs, I've got the gas, and then I've got, you know, the actual spot in the magazine, which are my costs. And I've outlined this all in the GoFundMe. To whatever extent I make any kind of profit, 10% of that is immediately going to go to the Baobab Home, which is a regenerative farm, school, and orphanage in Tanzania, Africa. It's actually run by my aunt. Terry Place and her family. And it's an amazing thing. That's where I'm going to give back, in terms of financial resources in the immediate. And then for people who donate, I will either give you $100 towards one of my services, whether you want to buy it for yourself or you want to buy it for someone else. If it's a symbol map and you want to see what your psyche might look like synthesized through this guy onto a piece of paper, then we can do that. And then we can talk about it afterwards. If you need help communicating, salary negotiation, interview prep, or you have a team of salespeople that need to be trained, in that case, we could talk about maybe a heftier discount, because the price is more than $100 would make much of a difference for. But I'm offering $100 credit, or I am planning to make a super special, super intentional, personalized art piece that's a synthesis of all the people who donated. I'd like to have a conversation with each of them so that I can get a little bit of their flavor and DJ them all into a big music mix for the eyes. And then those prints there will only be one batch done of those prints. They will go only to the people who have donated. Maybe if everybody gets together and they're like, hey, we love the print, sell it to more people. We don't care if we're the only ones that have it. Then I'd do that. But for now, it's going to be a special edition, limited run print for the people who donated. And that's my way. That's my good faith, right? That's me trying to show, like, look, I don't have the dollars. If I had the dollars to help you right now, I would. I know I'm asking you for dollars, but it's not without some reciprocation. Like, my sights are set on reciprocation. And, that's what my business is about. I mean, yeah, it's interesting to me to like help people, but I would much rather like just make myself a steak and make some music and have some fun and go to a concert and hang out with people that I love. There is a great deal of this business that is, I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't feel that there was a need for giving back to be happening. So that's the opportunity. Those are the details. If you feel called in your heart to help out, I appreciate it. If you don't, then that's fine, and I can understand. Believe me, I'm judging myself as I sit here right now, and I'm trying not to spend too long getting caught up in dithering and making excuses and explaining myself. But it would be stupid in my mind to give up the potential of this opportunity, even if it was for my own business and just for me. It would be stupid to give that up because my ego, my imaginary status, is hurt by asking for help, right? Like, I mean, I said it in the chat to you, man. Like, how am I going to sit here and ask for somebody to send me $1 when there's children starving? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And then I have to pull back and realize that I'm not entirely responsible for the system as it sits right now. And I could go give somebody all of the dollars that I have right now, like a kid somewhere. But the notion that would fix his situation or even stop the system from producing more kids like him, I think is silly. It certainly, I don't think, would help me help future people, right? So I'm in a process right now where I have identified gathering resources as necessary for me to have the greatest effect possible. And so that's what my mission is, and that's what my focus is, and that's why I'm here amidst all of these weird feelings and confusion to say, please help me get to Denver. I'm going to do some great and interesting things, and if you're not benefited, you'll at least be entertained, maybe. And if not, then you can hate on me because I have my shirt unbuttoned and like I'm an easy character to caricaturize. I'm a stereotype by a lot of different from a lot of different lenses. And anyway, just I'm dithering. Like I said, I was going to try not to, but it's uncomfortable to ask for help for this. But I also think that it's more than worthwhile asking for help for it. So I'm here.
So the time and place for asking for help, and then going out there and DJing the life is well, and ask to get whatever you call for it, getting started, or I later 986 called me out on like, chime in there. I want to hear your thoughts on it. But like, I also like when listening to you talk, like you're answering a lot of the questions I have, but like it's letting the conversation kind of go where I wanted it to go. Even you have a lot to say. Seems like you have a lot to say, and this could be like a fun little venture, even to continue on for next week. And to wrap it up for now, I got I think set out we accomplished the goal we wanted to today with this, but I think we could discuss what it could look like in the future. Like I wanted to go. I've done the whole scripted things on this podcast, live stream, whatever you want to call it. I've done the whole scripted thing, like where I had a list of questions where I was reading from a screen, and I've done the whole natural thing where I had, and those some of my best conversation I had. I talked with like actors and everything on who played who when you talk if you really want to get weird, like and talk about something weird like a person playing another character on the screen, and that's where I started this whole podcast and like talking film and acting and well, filmmakers in general. So that it's a weird, fun, creative, and everything.
It's
Yeah,
it's funny that you said, person playing another character on the screen, because I was just gonna say, like, if we have talks in the future, I imagine that they might be a little bit more they might have a little bit more continuity than this one did, because this one I very much was feeling the pressure of like, what do people want to hear? What would be the most valuable thing for them to hear? What would be the most valuable thing to me for them to hear? And some of that has been playing in my mind as I've been trying to hash out a thought, and thinking about what you might want to hear. And I like to think that the next time that we get together and speak, it's going to be easier for me to just connect directly with the person in front of me instead of putting on for an audience. Because I do think that it can be really beneficial to an artistic conversation to include the audience in what is being said. And I mean that up here, like including the audience directly with comments, I think is fantastic. But like,
yeah, I love the whole live stream comments idea. I love because I want people to bring that in. Like, do you like this? What do you want instead? I like Zach over Ziggy, like pulling it out of me. Like, Thomas, talk more. He's talking too much. Chime in with your own thoughts. I like that. I like
and
the
I want to hear more of
interaction.
your thoughts too, man. I guess what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say is next time I'd imagine that we'd have much more of a conversational flow, and I'd be a lot more engaged with you instead of thinking about what do I have to remember to say for this project that we're trying to make happen here. So thank you for the space to go off, and for the next time, like, I got some questions for you.
I'd love to do that too. Like we can uh, turn this into. I've done the whole bonus thing. I guess a scripted bonus thing, but we could make turn. We could do. I could do this like section turn the tables. Like I do this thing where I just create a live stream. Ask me anything, and and I've it's they've come up with some questions in the past where I do my best to give the answer to that question as well. So like curious to see what questions you have.
Well, I do feel tempted, and you can tell me what we've got as far as time, but what would you chime if you could chime right now? Like what's sticking out in your mind that you didn't get to say or that you would have liked to say something about the most? Like free play time.
My old thing is I'm started to talk about it before is I truly think everyone on this earth is to use it loosely. We talked about it in a much different way, but everyone is a creator in something, and it doesn't have to be the usual creative forms. It can be just going sitting at a desk job or creator of a process, creator of something, a thought process, conversation. You creating a conversation. You can create literally anything. It doesn't have to be a video, a movie, a music compilation, art piece. It can be anything, and everyone has the ability to create something, and it's just a lot of people aren't willing to, or they're like you mentioned. Like I love what you said about they're not willing to give up their sense of themselves. I forget exactly how you put it, but I,
No,
that
that's it.
goes.
Yeah.
And when they're willing to give up themselves as that idea, then they can create anything and DJ their life.
That's beautiful. So you kind of answered the question. There's two questions that came up for me. The first one you kind of already answered them both ish, but the first one is why is it important to you for you to see yourself as a creator and for people to see themselves as a creator, right? Kind of like seeing themselves as a creator, unbounding the definition of creativity, from just art or music or drawing. Like, why is that important? Number one. And then number two is what would be different in the world if everybody was able to recognize and internalize, what you just said, which was that creativity is everywhere all the time and everybody is a creator. Why is it important, and what would be different if everybody was able to learn what you're suggesting?
Why is it important that create and really everyone create? And I think this answer can kind of answer both questions. Why and then what would be different is it when I'm creating it. Time flies. Like time flies. Time passes when you're having fun. When I'm creating, when I'm doing my video thing, and that's how I create. And I I, I lose sense of time, and I'm doing this, and when I'm how I say it, put like on social media stuff. I the other day, Instagram came out with this new app. I guess to compete with the whole TikTok thing, and I love that app. It's a nice creation tool for me, as far as video and the social and when I'm creating, I'm to sound like free or fun. It's things are a lot looser. I'm
Um,
losing it right now, but like things
Unbounded or unburdened?
unbounded, opened, yeah, open up for me when I'm in creating instead of just. I haven't really experienced the other side. It's been like I've been part time work early on, but even then I found fun in like Zach. We have a common. We're actually coworkers going back 20 years at a grocery store, Kroger, and over here in the Texas world. I was like a math person and good with numbers, accounting, and I got into like bookkeeping at grocery stores, and I found and I actually found fun and like you have to go up. It was an early shift in this bookkeeping role, and it's I found fun and joy in that and creating and helping do the books for a grocery store.
So
And yeah,
I'm hearing that part of the value of like actively participating in creation, which requires that you allow yourself to whatever
hmm
whatever way you need to see creativity so that you can do something is super important so that you can, because when you do that thing, like when people engage with creativity, what I'm hearing is that when you engage in creativity, that there's this feeling of openness, unboundedness, and real engagement. Like what I'm hearing, what I feel like you're talking about when you describe what it feels like in your creative flow is real engagement, not distraction, not like filling your face with stimulus of some sort so that you're, focused on it. But like there's this loss of time, this true and loss of self. Like there's almost like a loss of self that happens while you're creating and you get lost in that sauce. Does that am I hearing you?
yeah, totally. I leave these days off the function on the phone, do not disturb. I'll forget like that, or I turn that on like right now as it's on, or kind of didn't happen when we started when the knock at the door. I felt like I had to almost. I don't know why, but I could have just. But that was a distraction, yes. But that usually doesn't happen. let it go, or a lot of times don't even hear about it, and the distraction will not even be come to me at all.
What does spending time in this engaged state do for you outside of the state? You know, obvious, there's like the self-evident like joy of engaging with it, and lightness and unboundedness that you described. But what does that do for you in other areas of your life? Spending
So
time in space.
I have one thing that came up when you asked this question, and sports. I've done a lot of stuff in the sports video creation, and I created this one video, and I kind of wanted like to see what I can do with this highlight sports type of video to see if I can do it. And I did. I created it, and I can share a link to this later because it's out there as well. I was like, I did that. It's a moment of impressing myself that, hey, I did that. I've seen it done multiple times by other people, but this is something I did, and it's actually kind of good. Maybe not as good as the next person, but like it's actually good, and I impressed myself doing it, and I've seen multiple times where that actually has come about to me in other ways as well, where I'll have a moment of just impressing myself when I do this one thing. I if I set the bar, raise the bar, and I'll impress myself.
What does impressing yourself do for you? What is that like, what's it like? How's it feel? What does it do for you?
Once it says like keep going, tell me like keep going. It's giving me the nudge to keep going.
Mm, I think that's really beautiful. I think that's really beautiful. As we're sitting here and I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about like credit, you know, how to use that phenomena, that feature of reality, like to our benefit. Um, no, I'm not. No Socratic method. I don't have anywhere that I'm going with this. I'm trying to. I want to hear Tommy's thoughts. Like I can see where he's going with. I feel like some of these thoughts, but like I want to hear him in Tommy's words because that's different than where I think he's going. That's why I'm asking lots of questions. But I do want to just remark credit that keeps you going, like credit that keeps you keeping going. That experience, taking credit, impressing oneself, I think is separate from the whole imaginary status thing that we're talking about, you know, as the imaginary status is a limiting thing. Impressing yourself, which does involve like an amount of ego and an image of yourself, if it keeps you keeping going, you know, and you're finding joy and engagement in that, to me, that seems like a self-evident benefit. It's self-evidently valuable, you know, it's doing the opposite of what, you know, imaginary status tends to do to people. It's getting you to create more. It's giving you I'm over talking it. It sounds like impressing yourself and receiving that credit that arises naturally from your reaction to your work. It keeps you going. And I think that's potent. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it feels potent, especially when it's happened. Like when those moments happen, it feels potent, and it's like, wow, I did that.
There's
So
almost
I know we planned 2 hours for this, and we're on the past hour and a half. We have a little bit more time for this and everything. I know planned well ahead of anything you got going today, but I love to like talk about the future stuff we can do in this. We can talk after off the in the chats and everything, and we can mention a few things now. Like what could we possible things in the future? What would someone want to hear from us? Maybe if anyone's still listening on right now, I'd love to hear all those thoughts from the comments from guys in the chats too, and especially from Michael. What anything specific that we can like open up a dialogue and discussion on for a future like once a week stream.
Hmm.
Building engagement, emotional connection from the beginning.
In the context of our like building engagement in terms of how we're speaking to each other, or talking about the topic of building engagement and emotional connection? Was that like feedback or a desired topic?
Might be both of those, but I think the topic of emotional engagement, building that the topics. See, building about how about building engagement or emotional connection.
I mean,
I read from the topics here. Psychology of building the relationship, or in sales, the juxtaposition.
okay, cool. That's a cool topic. And the first thing that came to mind for me was, why do we do what we do? Was a good was when you said, topics for next time. I thought that would be an interesting one in the general sense, but also in the specific sense to you. Why you spend your time the way that you do and the projects that you work on. I'd be happy to share about myself, but as a topic, like, what's driving, I think is I feel like it's tied into building emotional connection. And I feel like in some sense, emotional connection and tribe and the interaction between people, is sort of what we're doing a lot of what we do for in the first place. I don't know if those two really fit together. They fit in my head, but I would love to talk about building emotional connection from the start, in sales and in
Why
relationships.
we do things.
Right? That is okay.
I think that's another aquatic. Aquatic news network, obsessed with nature, aquatic, and conservation-based news stories and awareness.
Aha. So now understanding a little bit more about how that would be personally useful to you, I think will help shape the conversation as well. I know you just interacting and giving some listen time was huge for me in forming an emotional connection. Now it's my mission to help the aquatic commenter to more effectively hook their
And
balls.
Ziggy over on Instagram wants to talk to you about sales.
Okay. Is
So
there
maybe
anything?
have him on with you next week. We'll set up a little chat, I guess, in the background here, and we'll talk how might that look or sound or whatever. And come on, come on in this an aquatic news network. You'd be welcome to hop on in the conversation too. Come into the StreamYard as well, and actually come in and talk as well if you're down for that as well.
Yeah.
Sales is hitting a nerve here. Both.
No. I'm getting called a sales guru. I don't want that.
Uh-oh.
No, I get the it's a loaded word for some people, but I get the it's psychology. Sales is psychology, and psychology is like existing in many ways, if you're including the body in psychology. But yeah, it's the most interesting topic in the world, I think. And I think it's something that people struggle with. Like, they don't like sales divorced from business, but sales as a mode of interaction with other humans. Again, I really do believe it's speaking with intention. It's seeking to have a specific effect. Yeah, well, I mean, look, I fit you poked fun accurately. I mean, look at me. Like, come on. I don't think I'll be able to stop those perceptions from happening. So I'm just doing my best to be me anyway.
Speaking of perceptions, you say you're not a guru. What are you when it comes to sales or creating? What are you?
I'm a professional. I'm an expert in many categories. I'm an educator. I am a strategist. I mean, as a manager, as a supporter of salespeople, as a supporter of sales teams, I guess I'm not any of these things. I do have these skills. People can decide what I am. I still play with like labeling me for the sake of marketing, but
the one thing that comes to mind you said before, of most of all, a coach,
Coach, an enabler, which is an enabler,
enabler.
an enabler, an equipper, a supporter. Yeah. I mean, sometimes, sometimes I'm a listener, sometimes I'm an advice giver, sometimes I'm a question asker, sometimes I'm a validator. They're all roles that are necessary to be useful in the sales context or in any context. But I'm a carer too. That's one thing I'll take the label of, is I certainly
Well,
care quite a bit.
this is fun. I didn't think I didn't think I could do this in such a way, but like it's been challenging for me to step up and collect news. Thanks for like just staying. You're still with us and you're going approaching 2 hours, but like I set out to not script and just have set out in conversation. Maybe it showed up with I didn't have as much topics or questions or whatever, but I just wanted to be organic and free flowing in a way, and I guess when someone has a lot to say, they like to talk. I just like and I'm the listener, so my natural sense is to step back and listen, and then I love the chat calling me out on that as well too. So
If I can throw my hand up and explain just a little bit too, it's my own fault entirely, but there's a horde of information that has not made it out of my mouth into a forum that's available to people. So whenever I jump on a podcast, sometimes there's a lot that wants to come out, and in my profession, people might think that like I'm giving advice and telling people how to do things, and that is like a rare 5% of the time. Most of the time it's spent listening, and it's using the Socratic method and helping people get to places. So when somebody starts asking me questions, there is a large, I don't know that it's an appetite, but there's a whole dam of stuff that wants to come out. And with this conversation in particular, it was goal oriented because I have I have a deadline, and I'm trying to make this thing happen. But for future conversations, for anyone that's listening right now, you can expect that it'll be much more conversational. There are some pressures that shaped this conversation the way that they are. And I appreciate you, Tommy, for letting me roll and being a great platform and space holder for me to go. And I would like to do less talking the next time.
I didn't say Socratic method in a negative connotation. It's
Oh, yeah.
effective.
But the Socratic method comes along with this idea that I'm trying to lead them to a particular teaching, in my mind anyway. And when I was asking Tommy questions, I was trying to hear directly from him his words as opposed to what I might have been thinking. The only reason I made that distinction, but I like this aquatic person. I would have said what they just said, and then I just responded to what they just said. I'm a little extra sometimes. If nobody
But is there anything else you'd like to add to this conversation, or maybe save it for a new week? Maybe when we bring on Aquatic News or Ziggy on in the next conversation. Anything else left for this as to wrap up right now?
Yeah, I have notes written all over my bus of things that I want to remember, and my eyes fell on, as soon as you asked that question, this quote. It says, "Never stop dreaming. Never. It is food for your soul." And that is from the mother of a friend of mine who I've never met, but he told me her quote and I wrote it down. And if I could just add my own little addition to that, never stop dreaming. It's food for your soul. Just don't let the pressure of being something specific, in the form of this imaginary status, put pressure on your dreams, because then it's not food. You know what I mean? It's something that has the opposite effect of food when it comes with all that pressure. So much love.
Like when
yeah.
when you feel you need to do something, it stops something that stops. It stops that. Like what I get from it stops that nudging you from saying keep going. Just you get into that. Okay, you get into your self, that imaginary thing. You're getting into the imaginary status.
Yeah. And I feel like you said the need to do something. I think the need to do something is really potent and powerful when you need to keep creating because you've enjoyed it and you're impressed by it, But when you need to do something in order to be something, that's where I think it becomes destructive, right? To put it in more objective and technical terms, is like to need to do something to be this thing or meet a standard in your head versus need to do something because there's an open mouth and food could be put in it. They're very, very different. You know what I mean? And I like the need to do something and the difference of when it's
Everyone's
creative or
passing
destructive.
by. I think, therefore I am.
Allegedly.
But this is great. I'm pretty much got to just shy of 2 hours, and we're running into. We don't want to go into too much for if and then get more focused next time. We'll talk and about talk about plan and have set up a discussion for next week. This was fun, and look forward to more. We'll do this a lot more.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all
Thanks
for your
for
time.
having on and fun and I don't know. I usually am better at this, but when I'm more scripted and just ending the whole conversation, so I'll just end it here.
Spontaneous hang up.
Thanks Aquatic News Network for coming on, chatting. And you can feel free. You can come on to next as well and join on the screen. Ziggy, love to have you all on the conversation. Thank you, and we'll say bye and end the stream. And let's see, if I have one thing, I'll leave you live with quotes. One thing that comes to mind, that it's like a favorite one. There's a sports world, but the first one that came to mind is a quote by none than someone that did something. Was Dale Carnegie, one of the Carnegies or whatever, who rich person, whatever you want to say. And if you want to be interesting, you got to be interested.
Yeah, I love that.
It goes back to the whole caring. So there's the quote from me. That's a good stopping point.
Cheers.
So go out there, care, and go out there and keep going.
Yeah.
And care.
Recognize you're doing art all the time. You're creating and destroying right now as you're listening. You know, so just like recognize it. Do it how you want.
Yep. Just beautiful, and again, we'll do this again next week. Maybe if down, we'll do this as many times as everyone wants. And this was fun, and so I'm looking for. Stop it, and that was a perfect ending. So bye for this today, for this Monday. I might come do later on, maybe not, and knows I got some other stuff planned as well, some editing, and I'm gonna go into my creative flow later on.
Cool. And if there's any clips or sound bites that you find that you think are potent and you want to just clip them, and I don't know what your process is, but if you find any clips that you think are potent that could be used as a piece of video content, and you want to send them my way, like I would happily accept them. No, zero. Like I'm only appreciative of what you've already done. So that's not an ask, but just I'm totally open to that if that's part of your process. And are we still live?
Yeah, I didn't end yet, but yeah, but what do you mean send going live or in back end, whenever?
If you're going through and you're editing and there's a soundbite or a clip that you feel really is potent or speaks to the core of what's trying to be done here, could be useful in some way, and you don't mind just chopping that soundbite and sending it to me, or the video clip, that would be cool. But
someone who like, and we're still live, and you welcome anyone's obviously to just what I'm editing for someone else right now, doing helping them out, getting. I I came to him back when I finished with the project I was working on the other one, and I'm gonna be working on the next one for him for one colleague friend who's a voice coach, and I came to him and said, dude, I like this episode was gold. I clipped like 18 things that you could like share for promotional aspect of what the guy was saying, everything, and he was talking about the idea of the entrepreneur, and I clipped like 18 things. It was like I was vibing hard on that episode, and gave him so much promotional content. So it could be something from not my show, but I was helping edit and clip someone else's show, so they're getting it ready to produce on their channels, on their thing that they're doing, helping other people that way. So like it's not just me; it's me doing that for others too.
Well, I know I've noticed, and continue to notice that you're very mutual and reciprocal and service oriented in what you're doing with this project. And I just wanted to take a second since we're still live and ask, well, I could ask you this anytime and I'm asking you it now, but also for the people that are watching, like if somebody wanted to give back to you or somebody appreciated what you were doing and they wanted to support you, what's the best way that they could do that? Or is there anything that I can support you with? Is there any way that I can give back to you other than just being here and talking that would be beneficial for your project?
Sharing, commenting, like just engaging. We mentioned here we love the engaging, and that's I'd love to hear what people think a lot more, because that will drive my conversations the most when I actually hear from people, when I actually want to know what people actually want to hear, and
So
that'll
opinions wanted.
yeah.
Yeah, save
It
your.
may not be. I may not say that publicly enough because like opinions bad, but like opinions and get the feedback and what do you want?
So save all your opinion energy for Tommy and stop sharing them with your aunt on Facebook, who probably doesn't want to hear your opinion anyway. Start posting, start having those arguments here. Save your energy. Send
Maybe
your
for
opinions
next
to
week too.
Walter.
Come on, next week. Did I just open up something? I don't know.
Yeah. You tell people that their unwanted opinions are wanted somewhere, even if they're unwanted. That's a door a few people might sprint through.
All right, we'll see what that brings next week. And for now, let's 1 hour 57 and say goodbye for now. And we'll keep the conversation will keep going now.
Goodbye for now.